Hey, hear this one, right? This is how white people really feel about all that, right? Um, just imagine, right? Alright, I had decided that hey, I ain't again involved with no video charge stuff up with Mark Pastor, right? But remember after them MK Ultra and British colonial re-experimentation, I decided, hey, no me and no white person ever, right? Ever at all. I never was with a white, but I would never be with a white person, right? Um and anytime you say that, right? Anytime I decide make that decision, right? Them white voices, royal white voices, right? They'll be like they'll be they'll be like I still hurt, right? So their version of a Caribbean person healing, right, and coming out of hurt is actually hooking up with a white person, right? Real fuck up, right? So their version of seeing a Caribbean person as healed, right, is to hook up and to be in a relationship with a white, right? It's crazy, it's real crazy, it's crazy. So these people actually see themselves as an upgrade, right? And are like you just see it and you just observe it on the low, but to really actually hear it, right, is a whole different story. Like to hear them talking amongst yourself, right, is a real different story, right? Yes, filter VOMIT, and some of the other voices really was like yo VOMIT, right? And I don't mean pregnancy. It mean hey when I hear these people talking, right? When I hear these people talking, right? So they're telling you know they actually seeing themselves, right? White people actually seeing themselves as an upgrade, right? They actually literally telling the up talking about themselves that they are like I don't know if this is normal and I just making a scene out there that they all in normal conversation, right? Or like normal accepted in the world, but it's not accepted by me, right? That kind of thing is not accepted by me or by God, actually, right? Neither by me or God, right? So that conversation like that, that a Caribbean person, in order for a Caribbean person to be identified as healed, right, that it must be with a white person, right? That real screwed. That thinking is like at the root of genocidal thought, right? That thinking is real stink, right? Real stink, real stink. That dirty thinking, dirty thought can never be the thought of God, right? That thought, right? That for white people to be identified as healed, right? That if there was a white person, they identified as healed, right? That thought is at the root of Satanism itself. Satanism, right? Because what black and brown people have amongst the greatest healers in the world is actually black and brown people, right? Amongst the healers in the world is actually black and brown people, right? So that that thought, that whoever it is thought, that thought is a real dirty thought. It's a thought that need the thought itself need baptism. And I'm talking about Christian baptism. I'm talking about exorcism, right? Demonic or removal, right? The thought, right? It's a demonic thought, right? So all you really need to sit down with all yourself, Gil, right? All you really need to sit down with all yourself, right? And say, hey, and this is even amongst blacks and browns, because this psychological inferiority complex that are really placed inside some people, right? Now they are really they are really confident blacks and browns who know themselves, right? Most actually, a lot of people, right? A lot of people in the Caribbean by now understand what has happened by slavery and leadership, right? And they have a resistance people for the most part, right? And they have an acknowledgement of self and know the self, right? But to a lot of people still have a deep-rooted psychological inferiority complex, right? When it comes to white people and them, right? Within the Caribbean, right? And this is what we're trying to help fix to help heal to, right? The acceptance of self, acceptance of true self, and acceptance of authentic self, right? Without having to feel the need to fit in. And as I was saying, it all starts on with the workplace and so on, right? Where you don't force people to dress a certain way. I mean, oh gosh, within reason, within reason, right? Like jacket, tie, them kind of thing, right? People could go to work with whoever they want, cultural, wear these things, and especially people here, right? You don't have to cut your hair. If there's a Rastafarian and they're going into the service where you had to cut your hair for, them kind of things, right? Like it's simple things, right? That could just help people to help to love themselves more, right? To help love themselves more. If it's an Indian girl, right, and you're going into the workplace, you don't have to feel pressure that you have to straighten your hair every day you're going to work. Simple little things, right? The pressure amongst even female to female or male to male, right? Or male to female or female to male, right? And you don't have to be a certain way, really, right? You don't have to feel pressure then to be a certain way in order to be accepted within the work environment. Now, is within reason I'm talking, right? Because I ain't saying to go to work, well, like how you're just at home or like with a vest or something like that. I ain't saying that, right? I'm saying within reason, right? That's what I mean, right? Little things that the workplace could do, right? Or stop doing or ease up on doing, right? To just help people to accept the true self a bit more as Caribbean people and stop being so inclined towards Western dress, Western behavior, Western talking, right? Wherever it is, right? Within the workplace, right? And lighten up all yourself. Sometimes you're in the office, right? Like I was saying, like the office I used to work in, right? Sometimes you could hear a pin drop, right? Every time you laugh is a scene, you gotta quiet down, right? So lighten up on yourself now, and our office is real fucking professionalism, like it going to all your head, right? So yeah, anyhow, right, that was it, right? Hey, you don't have to identify yourself, right? It don't mean that that hey, you had to be with a white person to consider yourself healed. This I don't know who taught that thought. It could be a brown person, black person, white person, right? But that thought real sick, right? It's psychologically sick, right? The thought that says, oh, you're still hurt, right? If a brown or a black still with a brown or a black, and that you had to come out from a brown or a black relationship in order to be considered as healed and go into a relationship with a white, right? Because remember, like I was telling earlier, one of the first video, right, that pop up in the tarot card thing, the heart guidance thing, right, but this was 4 years ago, but I now see this thing, right? They tell me to try a different race, right? There's when I was with a black person, I was like, try, when I was with my ex, I was like, hey, try a different race. The energies, whoever it was that, whoever the source I was coming from, right? So that's how dirty this chosen thing is, and how did this think, and how does this function when they want you to be a part of their team. I don't want to be a part of that team, right? Once you're telling me something like that, and that is how your energy being directed to me, is a no. Is a no. I don't want to be in that clique, right? Now it's up to, if somebody wants to be with me, right, they had to leave that clique, right? That's the thing. Not me. Because to me, they are dongry. Like, once your mentality, like, I didn't say we know how white is a dongry. I said once your mentality is like that, it's a dongry, right? So for somebody to actually be with me, or somebody thinking like me, right? Earlier had to leave that clique, right? We know how to come up to all your clique. All you had to leave that stinking clique at the top, right? For anybody who think like me, right, or me, right? Somebody wanted to be, about try different race, right? But all you had to leave that clique thinking like that, right? Good.